At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Our country is doing great. I think we are doing probably, maybe in many ways, better than we've ever done before. You know, we're taking in trillions, not billions, trillions and trillions of dollars from other countries who for years took advantage of us. They took advantage of the United States like we were children, and that's not happening anymore. Now they're paying a lot of money, and they're paying hundreds of billions of dollars. Individual countries paying hundreds of billions of dollars. You're seeing what everybody else is seeing. And we have a lot of things we can do. You know, one of the questions asked of me this morning is, are you going to make a dividend to the people? And the purpose of what I'm doing is primarily to pay down debt, which will happen in very large quantity. But I think there's also a possibility that we're taking in so much money that we may very well make a dividend to the people of America. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
National Weather Service with that.
Welcome, my friends, to the Wednesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. We are the fastest hour in American media. Today is August the 6th, 1945. August the 6th, the United States became the first, the only nation to use atomic weapons during wartime, when we, the United States of America, under President Harry Truman, dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. 80,000 people were killed as a direct result of the bomb being dropped, 35,000 injured. That 80,000, though, didn't count the long-term effect. Another 60,000 would be dead within a year after the atomic bomb. So you could look at the death toll as 140,000 people. And the atomic weapons, then, that was the first one, nowhere near as powerful as the atomic weapons that have been produced since then. Of course, the Japanese did not surrender, and therefore Nagasaki was bombed 3 days later. I believe it was 3 days later. I don't have that in front of me, but 3 days later, as I recall, it was Nagasaki that was bombed, and that forced a quick end to World War II, the Pacific theater of World War II. Of course, by that time, Nazi Germany had already surrendered. The war in Europe was over. It is an amazing, for all the things that human beings don't learn, and we haven't learned, whether it's in our daily lives, we human beings tend to make mistakes, and we say we learn from them, but then we tend to remake the same mistakes. Sometimes we fall into patterns. It's very difficult. Change is very difficult. But for all of the things that human beings haven't learned, I think one lesson became very clear with the introduction of the nuclear age, is that this is not something that anyone should take lightly. In fact, one might argue that because of those nuclear devices being dropped and the horrific nature of what happened, the world has been petrified to see a nuclear war take place. And I mean, 1945. Wow. You think of all the decades that have come and gone since then, and it hasn't been repeated. So perhaps in this one instance, humanity got the message. Don't do this. And by the way, me saying that does not mean that I am in any way castigating the decision that was made by Harry Truman. It was estimated that if that Pacific Theater War was not brought to a close and it had to rely on an invasion, that up to 1 million people may have perished, many of them American military members. So I've never been one to second guess this horrid, horrid decision that Truman, Democrat, and apparently he didn't flinch. If you watch the movie Oppenheimer, when Oppenheimer came in and started expressing concerns about it, it angered Harry Truman because he was so convinced that he was doing the right thing and doing the right thing on behalf of America and the American military. He wanted to save the lives of the American military. It's a shame that Democrats today don't have the same sort of, commitment to protecting America as Harry Truman did. They might argue with that, but they don't. And you can see it in events of the day. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, the voting, this is amazing. This is the 60th anniversary of the signing of the Voting Rights Act, which promised Americans, particularly the Democrats, were still in full Jim Crow mode when this bill became necessary. They wanted to prohibit black people. That we can cut to the chase on this because you can dress it up in today's fancy terms and protect all people. No, it was black people. Democrats did their best to stomp on black people in America. They were doing their best with especially the Southern Democrats, with their refusal to let black people vote and put all kind of obstacles in the way of black people voting. It was the same time they were trying to keep Democrats like George Wallace, segregation now. Segregation forever. We don't want to go to school with them niggas. That's what they used to call when they didn't. I didn't say that word. Don't worry. I use the other words that Democrat used, and they used to call them nigras when they didn't want to go full N-word on them. So Democrats were in full racist mode. These days, they do it a little bit more subtly. These days, they want to kill off as many black and as they like to call them, people of color in the womb. They want to make sure that they never have a chance to. Why do you think? You look at the locations. I will just say this. Do your own research. Look at the locations of where Planned Parenthood centers are. Look at the locations. And in their heyday, Planned Parenthood was getting rid of almost 1 million babies a year. Well, the abortion movement. Yes, 1 million, not just Planned Parenthood. Don't want to slander them unless, just want to be accurate. Although they were one of the biggest abortion mills in American history. And they're still demanding that the government pay for it. So the Democrats have switched tactics. These days, they want to take care of most of it in the womb, and then they want to oppress them and keep them in ghetto communities. And we're talking about the black folks, the ones that they used to call that N-word. So they want to make sure that they still have an inferior education, that they don't have opportunities to fully participate in American society. But back then, they were just blatant about it. They didn't have to hide their intentions. So it forced through the Voting Rights Act. And pretty much the Voting Rights Act took care of the problem, except there's still some lingering stuff. The law helped all voters, not just black voters, not just those in the South, says Janai Nelson, President, Director, Counsel of the NAACP, better known as the NAALCP these days. The L stands for liberal. Now, the Democrats have changed their tune. Now they don't want to protect the vote. Now they want to protect their own interest. And how do they want to protect their own interests? By going to things like simple things that make sense to almost every American, regardless of race, including voter ID. Look, you have to, we've gone through the argument before. I don't want to spend a lot of time rehashing it. Yeah, you know what you have to use an ID for. You want to go on a plane, you got to show them an ID. You want to get your welfare bennies, you got to show an ID. You want to go buy some liquor. If you look underage, you got to show some ID. You want to go buy some cigarettes. You look underage, what do they ask? Where's your ID? You got to have an ID for so many things in this life, including things, that you get asked ID for all kind of things. Where's your ID? We want to make sure you are who you say you are. But Democrats are adamantly opposed to that when it comes to voting. Well, I just love this because Assistant Attorney General today, Harmeet Dillon, actually spoke about the Voting Rights Act. And here she is, cut one, and I just love what she had to say. So we're going to get to the redistricting, another scam Democrats are using to try to make sure that the voting rights of American citizens are totally ignored and they can just fix the vote in their favor. But we'll get to that. Let's listen to Harmeet.
Our constitutional duty is to protect the right to vote for all Americans. 60 years ago, Congress passed the Voting Rights Act of 1965 to confront the brutal reality that too many Americans were being denied their rightful access to the ballot. The Voting Rights Act came at a critical time in our nation's history and was the catalyst of necessary change. This landmark law removed barriers to voting. It outlawed poll taxes and literacy tests and gave the federal government the tools to stop discriminatory barriers at the ballot box. Today, under the leadership of President Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi, this Civil Rights Division is continuing to protect equal and transparent ballot access with vigilance and resolve. We are investigating violations of federal voting laws. We're ensuring that all 50 states have and continue to have clean voter rolls. We are challenging efforts to suppress or dilute the vote. We are attacking illegal race-based gerrymandering, and we are protecting ballot access for all Americans. We have sued jurisdictions such as North Carolina for not registering voters properly by first verifying their eligibility. We have notified Texas of grave concerns about congressional districts drawn with racial motivations, and we are suing other jurisdictions where there is evidence of ineligible voters on their voter rolls. Our job is to make it easier to vote and harder to cheat. On this anniversary, we honor the Voting Rights Act, not just by remembering it, but by enforcing it for all Americans. And that's my promise to you.
Yeah, and Democrats, I promise you, I guarantee you, I promise you, when they hear that message from Harmeet Dillon, it infuriates them because they know what that means for them. The other day we had this Slotkin, this Senator Slotkin, who called Donald Trump an existential threat to the United States of America. And I thought about this between yesterday's show and today. It is not that they think that Donald Trump is an existential threat to America. They understand that Donald Trump and what this administration is doing is an existential threat to Democrat corrupt power. That's what they are afraid of. That's what they do not want interfered with. Their corruption and their power. James Golden, Snerdley.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly here for Colonial Metals Group, China's leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II, one that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Go to freegoldguide.com/Kelly or call 800-655-5186 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's just after 11 a.m. here in St. Charles, Illinois, and I'm standing outside the heavily guarded entrance of the Q Center, a facility that now resembles a political bunker more than a hotel. I'm Gary Franchi. I'm the chief White House correspondent for the Next News Network on a special assignment investigating a stunning development. Democrat fugitives from Texas are now holed up inside this compound, using it as their base of operations to sabotage the democratic process they were elected to participate in. After approaching the gates and being denied entry, the security officer in the gate behind me revealed that Jasmine Crockett, Representative Al Green are in fact holed up inside. And I did see the guest manifest and can confirm with 100% clarity that those names are among others that are here being harbored under the deep-fried protection of Governor J.B. Pritzker, who's aiding and abetting these Texas fugitives like a human golden corral. Illinois has become a smothered and covered state house where runaway Dems feast while democracy starves back home.
Oh, man, talk about a news report. Carlos looked straight. He said, next news network. Who are they? I don't know who they are. There are all kind of news networks popping up. But the guy is out there now. Look, Hill Story reported that a bomb threat was made to hotel after, about 8:15 Eastern time in the morning. At this hotel where Democrats, they don't mention in the story the name of the hotel. They say at a hotel where Democrats were staying, there was a bomb threat they had to evacuate. And then Democrats are ticked off. Now, I contrast that, ladies and gentlemen. Remember when ICE agents in L.A. were being doxxed at hotels? Not only did they mention the hotels, every liberal news outlet was out watching these protesters try to threaten ICE agents. There was no hesitation about revealing the name of where ICE agents were. And no one seemed to care on the left at all that ICE agents were being docked just for performing their duties. There is an attempt here to try to make sure no one knows exactly where these Democrats are staying. Now, anybody that does bomb threats, stuff like that, they need to be prosecuted 100% to the full extent of the law. Don't go away. We're coming right back.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This man is accused of coming into the country illegally and then defrauding America out of millions of dollars. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement arrested Osman Zapata here in Orlando. He's accused of being involved in a large-scale fraud scheme where he allegedly cashed checks of undocumented workers through several shell companies.
Riddle me this. We live in Minnesota and we have been trying to sell our house for over a month without a single offer. Now, we've been taking notes. We have a Ring doorbell here, and everyone that has came through has made a negative comment about our American flag flying in our front yard, saying things like America is nothing to be proud of or the flagpole would need to come down. So our realtor suggested that we swap to the Minnesota flag, which closely resembles the Somalian flag, and we got 4 offers in the last 24 hours.
In Minnesota, have a flagpole, American flag out. People come in, negative, can't get a bite on the house. As soon as they switch to the Somali-looking Minnesota flag, 4 offers that day. It's amazing. What has Minnesota become? Anyway, on this day in 1960, Chubby Checker appeared on the U.S. TV show American Bandstand. And he performed The Twist. The song went to number 1 18 months later in 1962. It went to number 1 again. The only song to go to the top of the charts 2 different times. Also, on this day in 2004, Rick James was found gone, dead, at his Los Angeles home. Buffalo native, Buffalo homie. Rick James, so many songs. This is the one everybody plays, but I always liked his first one, You and I. Carlos, do we have You and I in the library anywhere from Rick James? Rick James came on like a storm with You and I. And it was, man, let's just play just a little bit of it. Then we got to get back to the busy stuff. This was his first one. This is the one that set Rick James off. Are you familiar with this one, Carlos? You're not familiar with this one. This was Rick's first hit, and it was a huge hit, especially on the R&B charts. You and I, Rick James. James Golden, Snerdley with you here. Okay, let's get back to it. Democrats are just still livid over this whole issue of redistricting. Donald Trump addressed some of it, and then he used the question to veer off into discussing the New York mayoral race with Mamdani. So let's just listen into that. It's cut number 4, and he also makes remarks on Elizabeth Warren. So we're going to try to squeeze in both of them if we can. Here's Donald Trump on the redistricting fight.
If Texas redrawing their congressional map would get you 5 safe red seats, means that California, New York, Illinois, and Maryland are all going to redraw their maps to add safe.
Well, they'll do it anyway.
Is it worth it?
Yeah, they'll do it anyway. Why? If we stop over there, they would have done it anyway. Look, a lot of these states, I watched this morning as Democrats are complaining, and they're complaining from states where they've done it, like in Illinois, like in Massachusetts. I watched this lunatic, Pocahontas. She's a total lunatic. I don't know what she's on. She's all jumping up and down like I've never seen anything like it, talking about supporting the communist mayor. And he's not a socialist. He's a communist, okay? This is not a socialist, man. This is a communist. If you look at any of his policies and go back 6 months, you don't have to go back further than that. So they want to put a communist in New York. Now, the good news is we have a lot of power over that because we're the ones with the money. We send the money. We don't send the money. It's up to the White House. A lot of power in the White House. But when I watched her jumping up and down talking about that and supporting the communists, but if you look at what's going on with the redistricting or whatever you want to call it, the Democrats have done it long before we started. They've done it all over the place. They did it in New York. They did it in a lot of different states. But in Massachusetts, so somebody used this as an example today. I was interviewed this morning, and they said, it's pretty unfair. Trump got 40%. I'm not proud of that, but I think I probably got more, but that's okay. I got 40% in Massachusetts, and yet they have 100% of the vote in terms of Congress. So there's no Republican, there's no anything. So we should have 40%. You know why? They redistricted, and they've done it all over the place. And they've done it in California, by the way. Before this, they've done it in California. So we'll see what happens. We have a wonderful governor in Texas. He feels strongly about it. It's going to be up to him. I think there's tremendous support for it. And, we've watched the Democrats destroy our country in 4 years. They've destroyed between their open borders that we talked about, transgender for everybody, all of the horrible things that they've done, high taxes, horrible medical provision for people. We've watched them destroy our country for 4 years, and people don't want that. And people in Texas, as you saw, I got the highest vote in the history of Texas. I love Texas. Texas likes me, obviously. But I got the highest vote, and that was checked out on the show. Did you see that, where they checked it out? They said he actually did get the highest vote.
This is really amazing stuff here. And I want to just comment on what he said about Massachusetts. I saw a post, and I wanted to fact check it. And so let me just read you what I wrote in. I asked, is this an accurate statement? This is what the post said that was on it was a social media post that claimed that there were 5 million Republicans in the states of Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. And not a single one of those states has a Republican member in their delegations to the House. Now, so I asked, is this an accurate statement? I asked AI, and it comes back. There are nearly 5. It says it's inaccurate in its claim about the number of Republicans, but accurate in its claims about the lack of Republican members from Congress in those states. So in these states, Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, not one single Republican member sent to the House. And you heard Donald Trump just say he got 40% of the vote in Massachusetts. But not one Republican gets a chance to go to Congress from the state of Massachusetts. Only Democrats. Now, the explanation that AI offers up, registered Republicans, the data doesn't provide support that they're nearly 5 million, blah, 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 etc. Why is that? And then I did a second search on it. How many Republican voters are in these combined states? New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. New Hampshire has over 333,165 registered Republicans. They have zero Republicans representing them in Congress. Vermont, impossible to say because Vermont doesn't have a party registration of voters. In other words, they keep it hidden. They purposely, and that's on purpose, they don't list the party. So you can't even tell how many Republicans there are in Vermont, or how few they are. Massachusetts, specific data on the exact number of registered Republicans in Massachusetts is not provided. The state won't tell you. As they gerrymander, Trump gets 40% of the vote there, zero representation in Massachusetts. Rhode Island, the search does not provide any specific data on the number of Republican voters. They can't find it. The same way, these Democrats, these Northeast Democrats have figured out a way in some of these states to keep Republicans squashed. They don't have even a facility in their governance of the election in those states to tell you who belongs to which party, because they know. And that's one of the ways that they gerrymandered. Now, Donald Trump mentioned Elizabeth Warren. She was on a CNBC panel, Cut 5, Carlos, and she was going on and on about her choice of Mamdani. And here it is.
Mamdani, and you are in New York, sort of speaking on behalf of him to a certain extent. I wonder, though, often we see this, and this is a local election. New York does not operate in a vacuum. It competes with other cities. And so this idea of somehow raising taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers, who, by the way, I would point out, pay roughly 15% of their income right now between city and state, raising taxes on them will simply drive them away. Shouldn't the focus of a mayor be on delivering services to the constituents of the city and doing that by raising the most revenue as possible without chasing businesses and the high-income taxpayers out of the city, because they can go to Austin, they can go to Dallas, they can go to Atlanta, they can go to Nashville. This is your issue. It's a national issue, not a local issue.
The issue is affordability. Do you know how many working families are chased out of New York City every day because they can't afford housing, they can't afford groceries, they can't afford child care? What Zoran is saying is, I want people to be able to afford to live in New York City. That's what keeps it a vibrant city. That's what makes people want to live
Nobody
here.
disagrees with that, Senator, but raising taxes in order to do it?
Oh,
why is that
goodness.
the answer?
Oh, dear. Are you worried that billionaires are going to go hungry?
No, I'm worried that they're going to leave and spend their money elsewhere.
You know, they've threatened to do that over and over and over.
And they have. They've left.
But here's the thing.
And Goldman Sachs, when they create new jobs, they do it in Dallas. And Blackstone won't build a new headquarters. They go on and on.
You want to have a workable city. You want to have a city that's vibrant. You want to have a city where the streets are full, where there are things for sale 24 hours a day. Then you need people who can live here and work
Well, we
here.
got that right now, by the way. I would point out New York is thriving. So now it's doing pretty well, actually.
I'm glad you think they're doing well, because a lot of people are struggling to pay for housing. A lot of people are struggling to pay for groceries. And I got to tell you, mamas and daddies who are facing $25,000 a year to pay for child care.
Those are national issues. I know they are the local state, but you can't.
New York City.
Yes, but if you deal with them in that way, by what is always your backup, just tax them more, they will leave.
He did a good job. I wish I did this interview with her. I have one simple question. Carlos, let me ask you one question. You're kind of a newcomer to a lot of politics. For the last 100/200 years, which party has been in charge of New York City politics with minor exceptions, maybe a Republican here or there. Well, I just gave it away. Which party has been in charge of New York?
New York is blue, I mean, for the most of it. Except, because I hear it all the time, except from Rudy Giuliani back in, I want to say, early 2000s, maybe, somewhere? No?
Yeah, he was in 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. He was around, of course, when 9/11 happened. Now, there was another Republican mayor. There were two other Republican mayors that people talk about. Lindsay, Republican John Lindsay. He crashed out, one-term Lindsay. And he wasn't all bad. He was a liberal Republican. And then there was Robert Wagner, a Republican. But you look at those three, and there may have been one or two others here or there. But for the most part, New York City is a Democrat city and has been a Democrat city for over 200 years. All these things that Elizabeth Warren is complaining about, lack of affordability, lack of this and that. I just wish I was on that panel to just ask her one question. Who has run New York City and made it unaffordable? If Democrats have been in charge, why do the people want to elect the same thing that led them to this point in the first place? And Democrats have been in charge. And you look all up and down the East Coast, Democrat, Democrat, Democrat. All the things these people complain about, whine about, moan about, year after year, decade after decade, their party has done it. Okay, now, moving on. Quickly, cut 6. Jake Tapper, CNN. Listen to this claim.
If you look at the map, right, you have some exceptions like Illinois. There's blatant Democratic gerrymandering. But most of the worst offenders when it comes to gerrymandering are Republican states, such as Texas.
I don't even know how this guy can say this stuff. He presents nothing by way of anything. In fact, Scott Jennings just raised the question. Look at New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, Maryland, New Mexico, Hawaii, Oregon, Washington, Rhode Island. And that doesn't even mention some of the other states that we've mentioned. They're all run by Democrats and have seriously excluded Republicans from with their gerrymandering. This is just one of these statements from CNN. Also on CNN, I'm going to cut her a little slack, but she's taking a little heat online talking about Cassie Hunt. And Cassie Hunt, ladies and gentlemen, was talking about what's going on in Texas. Cut 13, and Cassie Hunt made this comment.
And senior national correspondent Ed Lavandera is inside the Texas State Capitol building. Ed, lawmakers going to try to establish this quorum again on Friday. I think my question to you is, does the governor have a leg to stand on here?
Does the governor have a leg to stand on here?
The legal process here, which they hadn't done.
Governor Abbott is in a wheelchair. He's in a wheelchair.
Do not feel that the Republicans.
That's all. I don't even need the rest of the answer. Does the governor have a leg to stand on here? Now, a lot of people are demanding that she be fired and all of that. Come on, folks. I mean, look, I'm no fan of CNN. I'm certainly no fan of their biased hostesses and hostettes and reporterettes at CNN. But, come on. I don't think she meant to try to insult Governor Abbott by asking that question. It can get ridiculous now with this parsing of the words. That wasn't a slight. She wasn't mocking him being in a wheelchair. It's a common political phrase, but she's taking a lot of heat for it. So it is what it is. In 2016, Swedish music company Spotify report that The Girl from Ipanema was streamed more than 40,000 times after it was played when supermodel Gisele Bündchen walked out during to this theme, to the music, in the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro. Now, this isn't the version, but this is one of our favorite versions. There's still a Strood on this one. The hit that they played was a Strood's version with Stan Getz, the one that went to number 5 on the United States charts. Coming back, James Golden, Snerdley, Rush Hour, the fastest hour in American media. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's over 50 years, man. This is incredible. On this day, 1973, 52 years ago, Stevie Wonder was seriously injured. The car he was riding in crashed into a truck on I-85 near Winston-Salem, North Carolina. He was in a coma for 4 days. Accident also left him without a sense of smell. Now, I remember being horrified during this time, and we didn't know whether he was going to live or die, frankly. And the story is that he came out of the coma when someone that was visiting him, I forget who now, started singing, and he started tapping his fingers to the melody or to the beat. Anyway, the album after this really serious accident, if you look at the cover, there's the car, there's a crash. It's a whole lot of things on this cover. It's Fulfilling This First Finale. This took place after the album Inner Visions was a hit, in between the albums Inner Vision and Fulfilling This. And he, of course, recovered that album, Boogie On, Reggae Woman, You Haven't Done Nothing, and this one, Creeping. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you. Your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude for your being here, allowing me to be with you. God willing, back tomorrow for the Thursday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Until then, my friends, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?